This podcast was brought to you by the good people at Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial right now at audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic. Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we are, of course, discussing I Am My Mom. Big one for many reasons.
Oh, it's a big one.
How are you feeling, Chris?
Well, to get it out of the way, first of all, my headphones have been on for obviously the 15 minutes it takes to watch the episode. No beeping. So I think the beeping was my phone saying, don't forget to start the veg.
Right.
So, for those that listened to yesterday's episode, that's cleared up that mystery, and I apologise again.
There you go. Cool. Mystery
I'm
sorted.
feeling pumped, man. So, okay. So, Stephen is panicked. They've got his friends. What's going to happen? They decide to go. They realise that if they get them to space, then shit's going down because they got no way of following them. So... Stephen gets a text from Connie, a photo message suggesting that they're at the arcade. They go to the arcade. Mm-hmm. It's a trick. They explain that their list comes from Stephen talking in the Peridot report, which was awesome. I was like, oh, that's so good. So clever. Because that was ages ago, wasn't it?
That was great, because it's the onion I think thing that I love, because the joke in the original episode they did that was when... he goes, like, she goes, there are humans? He's like, yeah, there are tons of humans, like my mailman, my dad, Onion, I think. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he goes, you know what I mean? He goes through, Lars say, Onion, I think. And the joke obviously was, he's not really sure what Onion is.
Yeah.
So in this episode, the moment I realized what it was when Aquamarine goes, and we got an onion, I think. I was like, wait a second, I remember that joke. And that's where I put it together. But, like, I imagine that's quite a specific little clue. You either remember that and get it, or you wouldn't at all.
It's a deep cut from a while ago.
Yeah, from the first time that they really properly interacted with Peridot, really. And yeah, it's crazy because it makes so much sense. Because so you talked about like the. I'm interrupting you. Should we get into it properly later? Sorry, I was excited to go into the list stuff, but I'll let you finish your description.
Yeah. So they do the. Sorry, I'm distracted by something outside. I won't be. So they go. So they fight.
Is Dave back?
And
Is Dave back?
Dave's not back. That someone's left their car door open, and now that I've noticed it, I feel a real obligation to go over and tell them. And part of me's like, oh God, if I wait 40 minutes, what if like on air someone goes
carjacking?
Yeah. And now I can't stop noticing it, but I don't want to interrupt the fucking podcast again.
Would you feel better if we take a second? What if we sort it out?
What if we keep recording, pause, dash down, and then come back up? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, back in a sec.
Chris has gone to prevent a carjacking, everyone. He'll be back in a minute. You would hope. I'm going to leave a gap here now. It's going to click to. We're going to jump straight to when he comes back, so that we don't interrupt the flow of the podcast too much. So several minutes have gone by. He's not back. So maybe he caught the carjacking mid-carjacking. And he's... Oh, wait. This could be Chris.
I'm back.
Welcome back. Did you stop a carjacking?
You've not been filling, have you?
No.
All right. And I'm back. Thank you for cutting that, Dan.
Oh no. I left in the first you saying you're back.
Huh?
You didn't need to do a fake. You didn't need to do like a fake podcast voice. I'm back, guys.
That was alright. Only a few minutes, Steve. Only about 3 minutes there. It was weird. I don't know. You kind of expect, "Oh, you're a hero, thanks." But it was probably weird because I didn't want to go into. I was like, "Your car door's been open. I live opposite. I can see it," and I very nearly was like, "I think it's been open for about half an hour. I'm doing a podcast." I was like, "No, just your car door's open," and the dude was just like, "Oh, it's our friends." Like, okay, I don't need to know whose car. Like, just close the car door.
I mean, I suppose you could have just run over and closed it.
That's weird, isn't it? No, because there might have been a reason. You never know.
Or the keys might have been on the inside.
Yeah. So I don't want to do that. So, but I had to kind of like, I'm Colin and Ange, and I'm pretty sure they don't know my mum and dad. So, yeah, it was an odd exchange. But Dan, I'm back.
Cool. Right. I the only bit I did between you going and coming back was just a few seconds before you came back. I was like, it's been a few minutes. He's still not back. Maybe he did catch it mid carjacking and is heroically stopping it. I think I said something.
No, mate, I'm wearing pajamas, mate. I'm not.
Oh, you didn't tell that bit when you told the story of going and knocking on your neighbour's door and telling the car door's open.
I quickly chucked on shorts, and the t-shirt I could roughly. It's never a t. It's stripes, but it's not downward stripes. It's across stripes. So I'd never wear this t-shirt out.
Gotcha.
Because I don't look particularly small in it. But yeah.
There you go.
Anyway,
so
we're back, my friends. So
after last week's intro, I was really like, this week's will be better.
No, but if you've cut that, that should be fine because you've cut it. So
sure,
not a problem. But I apologise. But I did the right thing. You would have done that.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do. I suggested it. You were like, I'm distracted, but we'll have to. Like, you were almost going as if you were going to be like, well, we'll have to carry on. I was like, no, you stop. You go do it.
Well, adds a bit of jeopardy to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, man. How tense would the podcast have been if we'd done the whole thing, having left the person's? Yeah.
How bad would it have been if this podcast would have ended up submitted for evidence? And the police officers were just like, "Well,
I really like the idea of in a courtroom, someone playing it back. Like, so this is Chris describing the guy stealing the car, and here at 40 minutes into the podcast, he describes the face of the person stealing the car. No explanation as to why he didn't actually do anything about it.
Yeah, he appears to be mid-description of a children's cartoon." Which he determined was more important.
Amazing. Yes.
Right.
Crack on. So we find out where the list is from.
They go. They've got the fusion. They try to fight it, and Topaz kicks Garnet's ass. She's so fucking irritating. Aquamarine.
Aquamarine.
You know. Yeah. I didn't realise how much of a snotty British stereotype she was until this episode. Like, it's all the worst parts of Hermione in a fucking villain.
That's a good fucking villain.
Oh, fucking hell. So they have their altercation, they're kicking ass.
Yep.
And in the end, Stephen's like, I am my dad. So Stephen gets fused as well, and then he's attempting to do a bubble to burst them out of it. Jamie's being irritating. Lars is panicked.
Everyone's feeling pretty stressed, it's fair to say.
Everyone's feeling pretty stressed, apart from Onion, who's just looking like, what's going on here? So then they go in the ship. Stephen produces the bubble. They fight again. Stephen and Connie team up. Lars gets really scared, and unfortunately his sort of fear and cowardness comes into play again, and he runs and hides. The others all make it to the door and jump off. Then the Hermione, Aquamarine, pauses, freezes them with her wand. Oh, she's even got a fucking wand. She's literally all the worst parts of Hermione.
She had that in the last episode, but you're right. Now in the context of you deciding she's Hermione-ish, that wand seems a little more intent. It's got a bit more of an intent to it. Yeah. So So Stephen says, "Well, you want someone? You want someone? Do you? I'm Rose Course." He drops the mic, and they're like, "Oh shit!" So they go off into space, and everyone's like, "Stephen's really emotional. Everyone's tearful." I was really expecting. I mean, it would unfortunately be played for laughs, but I was really expecting
no, Stephen, and then you just hear Sadie go, Lars, because everyone else seems to have forgotten that Lars is still on board.
Yes.
So Lars and Stephen heading for space. And Onion does a somersault off of the spaceship into the water, which is pretty amusing.
Yeah.
I thought this was awesome. I thought it starts, and I was almost a bit like, oh god, how are they going to wrap all this up in 11 minutes? Like, how are they going to explain who the lists are, what they're for, and how are they going to be defeated? And the fact that they're not defeated. And was this the end of the season then?
Yeah. What a great cliffhanger.
What a great cliffhanger, because it's so like, and also there's so many powerful moments in it when she's like, or alive, I'm like, oh, they're not going to kill anyone. And then she grabs Jamie, and I'm like, oh, they could kill Jamie. Because, you know what I mean?
In a weird way, the most disposable of them. Like, you could arguably do that with. Yeah. But, I mean, do you really think it's out of the question that they'd kill any of the sort of townies?
It would surprise me. I mean, obviously Stephen's got his healing powers, so if anyone did die, Stephen could give it a good go trying to resurrect him.
I mean, well, that's the thing. But I mean, we've only ever seen him. He's healed. He's back from the dead. Is a bold would be a big jump from healing a cut or giving Connie 20/20 vision.
Yeah, that's true. But
do you not? Let's quickly get on that though, because like, so you don't think the show is ever likely to potentially kill any of the townies?
I'd be surprised if they permanently killed a main character townie. Any of the others, I could see any of them dying and like them doing something with the Stephen healing powers. I can't see. I mean, it's not fucking Walking Dead. Like, I'd struggle to see them permanently killing someone like Sadie, Lars, Onion.
Is that out of their importance, or out of it's a kids show, you can't do that, or is it a bit of both?
It's a combination of both. Yeah, I think you could kill. They could, if they killed Jamie, I'd have been like, but he's background and secondary enough for me to kind of believe they might be. It still would have been ridiculously bold, by the way. Because it is fundamentally a children's cartoon, so fucking if they kill anyone, like it's some major shit.
Yes,
but I would assume I'd struggle to see a world where they permanently kill someone the audience loves.
Yeah,
on a Cartoon Network children's show, and I'm happy to be. They've proven me wrong on everything else. If you'd have said that it was going to deal with transgender issues and the LGBT community and mindfulness and abusive relationships, I probably wouldn't have said it would do any of that. So
yeah. If any show is capable of surprising you in that way, it might be this one. That's fair.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, I misspoke. Then I don't think they've ever really dealt with transgender, but gender fluidity they've certainly, I think, dealt with.
Because sort of Stevonnie is sort of. Stevonnie is sort of is it gender neutral? Is that the word? So there's that. They certainly dealt with gender issues. I just didn't want anyone to. Gender issues is a better description of that. Yeah. I just think it was awesome, and I was genuinely like, oh shit, they're gonna kill the postman. Obviously, glad to see they didn't. Yes.
Always good to see. Although he was irritating. He was a bit like, oh, shut the fuck up.
I think I can't remember an episode you haven't been irritated by Jamie's presence.
I wasn't too irritated in the one with the. Oh no, it was a relative of Jamie, wasn't it? With the flashbacks in the book and all that shit.
No, that was wasn't that they cast Jamie as that person in their heads?
That's it. Yeah, it did. When Jamie was playing a fictional version of another character, I wasn't irritated by him. That helps.
What about the episode where Jamie put on the play that that inspired that?
Yeah, I don't think that one irritated me too much. I can't remember.
No.
I was going to say, so Topaz, like, not to like constantly compare, but didn't Topaz kicking Garnet's ass remind you of the cleverness of having, spoilers for Infinity War, Thanos kick Hulk's ass right up top? Just going, you should be fucking scared of this villain. Here's why.
100%. Yeah.
Like, so clever.
Yeah.
Clever.
It's a really good idea to basically take one of your strongest good guys and put them up against the new bad guy immediately So it's like, oh, okay, no, this bad guy is going to wipe the floor with everyone here. Like, there's no chance. I also loved that during that fight, there's that amazing moment when she goes to punch Topaz, and Topaz moves, so Jamie is in the line of the punch, and Jamie goes, I've moved on, because he thinks Garnet's going to hit him. I think that's great. That makes me laugh without question every time I watch this episode.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a good bit.
It's a great episode. It's got some great moments in. What a way to end the series. I mean, it's Cartoon Network. I assume the next series started almost instantly.
No, I think we went into a big hiatus here.
Really?
I think
isn't next the Wanted arc?
It is, and let me check, because I remember feeling like there was a hiatus, but that might just be. Do you know what I mean? Me in my head being like, I just want the next episode tomorrow, and whatever gap that was there, tiny as it was, felt like months. Let me just check. So this aired on the 11th of May. Well, it was technically released on the app with all the others on the 5th of May, but the 11th of May this aired on
2017.
2017.
So we'd have been we've already established we were recording at this point of these episodes. Yeah.
Oh no, the Wanted arc came out on the end of May. All right, no, there wasn't a gap really.
Okay, fine.
That's shitty.
But this is the point where like it gets really weird with Cartoon Network. Then this is the point of them just chucking episodes on the app and.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that after the Wanted arc, there's a big gap. A huge one, because I remember that was like the great hiatus, like everyone was really frustrated about. So I think after, what was the episode called? Actually, I probably shouldn't say any names. There's because like, okay, so we're in May. The Wanted arc all airs at the end of May, and then there's not a new episode until the 10th of November.
Jesus,
there's a huge gap between the Wanted arc.
What did you enjoy about this episode?
Oh yeah, it's a great one. I think there's so much to talk about with this episode. I mean, starting at the top, the cleverness of how they get the names through the Peridot thing, which we've already sort of talked about. But like, I love this idea that we're paying off the thing you were excited about at the end of the last bomb, when you've got the diamonds talking, and then she's like, "Oh, you just want to preserve those people before the cluster comes out." Okay, cool. Like, well, We'll work that out. And this is like the payoff, isn't it? You were like, oh, they're going to, collect some human samples. Of course they are. And what would they do but go off the report from Peridot? It makes so much sense. So it means this entire arc that's happening now, this whole situation with Aquamarine and Topaz, is a payoff to a storyline that's set up at the end of the last bomb.
But what I love as well, and I know it's odd because last week Doctor Who came up a lot, and this is the second time I'm bringing up Harry Potter, but it felt like one of my spoilers for Harry Potter books, one of my the moment I was like, this is without question one of the most intricate and genius books I've ever read, was when I think there's a throwaway line in like book 2 or 1 about the cabinet in the shop. And then that comes back to play with huge vengeance in like book 7 and book 6, and there's a book 6, and then there's another where someone got poisoned. Someone got poisoned with something, and again, all these seeds that are sown, and just the beautifulness of something. Again, it's what I was talking about last episode. That felt like a throwaway line. That felt like a line for the Onion joke and for Stephen making a point in context. And whether they planned it to then turn into this, or whether they then went back and went, oh, we could turn that into this. It's fucking genius. And it's not...
Either way is
George
impressive.
Lucas, yeah, and it's not George Lucas making one of the people who genetically became a stormtrooper bang their head so that there's some clumsiness in the stormtrooper's genes. Like, it's not that. It's so much stronger than that, and it serves to develop the story as opposed to rectify a goof that a gaff that you didn't spot.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's so clever for a million reasons because it explains everything with perfect, one-to-one logic, which is like when you can follow the logic any direction, and it makes perfect sense how we got here without question. Because you line it up with the Diamonds deciding they wanted more samples for the zoo, or Blue wanting more samples for the zoo before preserving some of Earth before it explodes. And Yellow going, okay, well, let's do that then. Will that make you feel better? Let's do that, because you line that up with this and that Peridot report, it all just sort of fits perfectly, because the Diamonds will have gone, okay, what do we know about Earth? If we're gonna preserve some samples of the life there, what do we know about the life there? The most recent report comes from this random Peridot. Great. There's a Stephen, there's a my dad, there's a Connie, there's a Lars, there's a Sadie, there's a postman, and there's an onion. I think we'll get all of those. We'll bring them back here. It's such perfect logic that it's almost like, it's either very good luck or just perfect design. And if it's either, well, it's not even luck, because it would take them to spot that connection to draw.
Yeah,
lines.
definitely. Yeah.
So they've either been very, very clever and observant of their own history, or they have had planned this from the beginning. And if they planned it from the beginning, then that is remarkable. And just great writing.
Let's talk about the Lars of it all.
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? Because that's such a powerful moment in this episode.
Yeah, well, it makes the episode before even better. It just linking, because now you kind of get, because it almost felt like I was voting for he wasn't being a coward. The gems did that. And you were kind of saying, no, it's in the bin. It's pretty clear he was a coward. And now we kind of have got the best of both worlds. He was a coward, but it's to serve this moment. It's to embed that into this moment of you knowing that he can get scared and stuff. And coward feels like a harsh word for someone who is scared of fighting an alien creature.
Yeah.
But,
his actions are cowardly.
I can't wait to see, because you cannot tell me that, knowing this show, knowing these writers, there's no way they don't have a plan for that. There's no way. So I can't wait to see where that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, even just the choice of having him be the remaining one on the ship. And ironically, out of his cowardice, had he gone with Sadie, had he been braver, he would be out on Earth and fine, and as he was. Do you know what I mean? His cowardice has ironically trapped him in an even more terrifying situation. And you think there's two ways that goes. We're either going to explore his cowardness, or this is where he gets over it. Because he's on a ship right now heading to fucking Homeworld with Steven. and if at the beginning of this bomb I'd have told you that's how it ends, with Lars and Steven captured going off to Homeworld, you'd have been like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why Lars?
Yeah, definitely. And it's...
Go on.
My assumption is he's going to do some brave shit in Homeworld. I hope that's what happens. But I'm so
you're hoping
happy
for
for
some
them
sort
to
of
do
payoff, right?
Huh?
So you're looking for some sort of payoff to the cowardice he sort of showed here.
I've got a slight theory, but it's not actually a theory of any substance, and it might get you in trouble, Dan.
Why?
Because I think they do something with Lars, because episodes and episodes ago, you said they plan their characters out, something major's going on with a character, and there's artwork on the walls, there's artwork in a book, or Rebecca Sugar tweeted some artwork that shows that they had that arc planned out for a long time. And ever since then, I've been like, I wonder who that character is. And then now I'm like, I think that's Lars. So I don't know if you're going to get in trouble for you shouldn't have hinted that there was a character that had got on an arc, but of course you should.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly,
okay, interesting. Yeah, well, I think it's reasonable for you to assume that. But you don't know that. I mean, there's so many potential.
No, that's
options.
just my theory is they do some big shit with Lars.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, to be fair, without me saying about that character thing, which hasn't come up yet, therefore I'm not going to go into any more detail about. But yeah, I was making a wider point at the time about proof that they plan stuff really far ahead in this show.
Yeah, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, something major happens to someone, and now I'm thinking it's Lars.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's a reasonable assumption, but to be honest with you, would you not have that? You'd probably have a similar theory even without
Oh
that
god,
information.
yeah. I'm just
Because
backing it up with a comment you've previously made.
Right,
You sound
okay.
like you're worried about commenters being like, "Oh,
No.
Dan."
No, because for that to be true, you'd have to be right.
Huh?
For that to be true, you'd have to be right.
Oh yeah. And I'm not saying I am, but yeah, that's I can't
okay.
wait to see what they do with Lars.
Well, I mean, in terms of the last situation, it's absolutely I mean, even without that, you would be hard pressed not to theorize they had something big planned for him, because they've very specifically chosen to have that character on this ship. So, regardless of whether that is the character I was referring to in that comment, your theory seems likely, because why else would you choose to bring him on such an important adventure with Stephen when he's been previously unreally connected to the gem side of Stephen's life? You know, it's a big move for that character to thrust him into Stephen's world. But very interestingly, probably the right move, considering where he's been. You know, this lack of confidence in himself, you know, and all that stuff. You know, how do you pay that off? Where do you ever go with that? Maybe the answer is thrust him into a gem situation and let him realize that maybe he's braver than he thinks he is, and maybe he's a better person than he thinks he is. You know, maybe have him save the day. You know, like that's what I would have been thinking prior to any of this, you know.
Definitely.
You know, that because that's one of the most sensible and logical ends to his sort of arc, as it were, of being sort of afraid to be himself and unconfident and all that, you know, all that sort of social anxiety we talked about in the last episode. Was it called the Good Lars? That was the episode's title, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So like you'd be thinking that stuff regardless. So I think if anyone is in the comments going, "Dad, you hinted too much at Chris," well, I mean, because they'd be saying that. And that's the other thing as well. The fact that you've developed a theory based on a comment I meant, regardless of its accuracy, will lead to me being yelled at, because people will go, "See, you shouldn't have said anything." Like,
did pre-warn that you were going to get in trouble with my theory.
I'm getting in trouble no matter what, because even if you're absolutely off base, the fact you've built a theory based on a comment I said. But guys, here's the thing: the only way to stop that is for me just to not to say it. It's to me. Otherwise, this podcast would just be, "Hi, welcome to Stephen University, Chris," and Chris would just talk about the episode for 20 minutes, and then I'd go, "And goodbye."
You do also. I have seen the opposite, where you get like, "Well, Dan, you didn't mention this."
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
people are like, "Oh yeah, this thing comes back up later." I'm like, "Well, I didn't mention that because Chris is the thing's like, oh man, this podcast."
I tell you when you'll be able to win. You'll be able to win when you're very close to being able to win, because when we're completely caught up, it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But yeah, no, I think from the perspective of like this episode, that moment, the Lars moment of him being faced with his own fear and his own like inability to take action, like it's such a good metaphor for his character, but also like a really powerful moment in the moment, because it's the person that's begging for his help is Sadie, who you know he cares for deeply, regardless of how, you know, he sometimes acts around her. She's in Topaz's arms, she's reaching out, she's asking for Lars's help, and he is free and on the ground, and all he has to do is just stand up and do something. Anything. Be brave. Try. You don't have to succeed. Just try. We're in a, you know, we're in a live, you know, life or death sort of situation here. You just gotta scramble. You've just gotta try everything, right? You can't just run away.
Yeah.
And you want that for him, and you want that for him so bad. And that moment, it's like 10 to 20 seconds of this episode, not even, where he's on the floor and she's crying for help, and you just want him so badly to go, but you know he won't. And the moment...
Well, he stands up at one point. It looks like he's going to.
And then he
just runs away.
And hides behind something. And it's like, I think he hides down a staircase. And it's like, oh, come on. Yeah. It's really hard, because like, you really want him to do it on both a in the episode sort of perspective, because you want him to save Sadie. You want Sadie to be safe because you care about these characters, but you really also want him to do it because you just think you want it him to be the good person that you know he
Yeah,
can
it's
be.
the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do, and you want that for him. And it's so frustrating and very impactful, and probably one of the best moments in this whole episode, which is saying something, because this episode's full of amazing stuff. So yeah, the Lars of it all is right. It's a crazy moment, and where it's led to is all sorts of dramatic and ironic and interesting for his character. Lars might be one of the best characters in this show.
He's certainly, at this point, it feels like one of the most layered.
100%. And the situation is really it's that perfect crescendo of circumstance and character, of positioning and character, and story and character, because the story is pushing all of the things we know about the character to the forefront. Do you know what I mean? The story has led him to face his cowardice. The story has led him to be in this really sort of Shakespearean and dramatic circumstance of his cowardice has actually put him in more harm than being brave. And we know that because he's still on that ship. So there's just something beautiful about how this has all been written. Something very, very intricate and extraordinarily clever and very, very entertaining. And I think that Lars certainly is proven to be one of the better characters. And I think there is a satisfaction from my perspective, because I liked the Lars character from as early as Lars and the Cool Kids. I wasn't sure the first couple episodes because he just seemed like a stereotypical sort of bully for Steven character, especially if you watch that pilot, which you have. In that pilot, he's very much just like a sort of a local bully sort of thing. And I always had the idea that, like, oh, she would eventually soften him, or you would see that he has got a softer side. But still, from that perspective of outwardly, he's still a dick. But what they've done with Lars here, it means that, like, if you were the sort of person who from the day one really appreciated that character and enjoyed what that character was bringing to the table, the satisfaction of seeing all this stuff come up now, like,
huge,
is crazy. And I know a lot of people that didn't like that character that have come around to that character from sort of around this period, from Good Lars and this and obviously he's going to play a big part in the episodes coming up. I know a lot of people turned around on his character throughout this period in the show, and it was very satisfying for people who liked him from the beginning, sort of saying, see. I saw a lot of that on like Reddit and stuff, look. So all we need now, Chris, is to do a similar arc for Ronaldo so we can feel stupid.
Nah, I can't see that. I struggle to see that happening.
No, me too.
What about the Stephen of it all? Stephen's decision, so powerful. Again, such a build-up, and
Yes.
clearly the climax of so many seeds that have been sown throughout the series.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it is one of the more another one of the more powerful moments of the episode, because he does it twice. He does it twice. He says, "I'm my dad," but to be taken initially to help sort of end it and sort of and stop the pain that his friends are suffering, and then because he has a plan as well, and then he's I am my mom, and he reveals the truth, which is that he is Rose Quartz, so he does that. And he even says, and this is what I loved, because it would have been so stereotypical for him to go, "This is what my mom would have wanted." He doesn't. He says the opposite. He goes, "I know she wouldn't have wanted this, but this is the right thing to do." And that is, one, going against the grain of all television ever. but two, another perfect example of this show building its characters in such a clever way that when the plot requires them to make these big decisions, you already understand why they're making the choices they make. They don't need to justify it. It's the difference. It's, what it is you see a lot of these, like, these shows like Supernatural, where characters will do surprising things and then go, "Oh, well, I was thinking about this and this," and it was never layered in before. They just sort of verbally explain their thinking in the moment. And then you can just have characters do anything you want, surprising at any time, and then try to justify it without actually building the character stuff in first. This is the antithesis of that. This is years of character development paying off in a moment where you know exactly why he's doing it without explanation. You don't agree necessarily. It's risky. But you totally get exactly why he's doing it.
It is, and at the beginning of this podcast, I never would have thought I'd say this, but it is Breaking Bad levels of character development.
Yeah, 100%.
But it is. It's that moment in that, spoilers for Breaking Bad, it's that moment in the final episode where Walter says, "Everything I did," and Skyler says, "Don't you dare say you did it for the family. And he goes, everything I did it for me. Like, and you're just like, oh, he's admitting it, and he's, oh man, that show. I should rewatch that show.
That's a great show. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge moment, and it's again though in Breaking Bad example, we knew that for a long time, and we knew he knew that for a long time, but the crux of the character was he would never admit that. The payoff to him finally admitting it was really satisfying without them going and winking at us like, or having Skylar be like, oh, you finally admit it then. You know what I mean? They didn't need to do any of that. That's all built in, all contextual. You don't, it's very, very cleverly written. You don't need any of that. It's perfect. And like, legitimately, from my perspective, like with Steven, because I was so entranced in what the writers were creating here, it's taken this podcast really for me to appreciate it at that level, because when I first watched it and I wasn't analyzing every single episode, I knew I was enjoying it, and I knew it was clever, and I knew I was really getting a lot out of it, and I knew I felt impact in that moment of Steven saying, no, I'm a mum, and giving himself over. But the true genius of it and the true work that's gone into it really wasn't as obvious to me until we've sat here and analysed every episode for, 3 times its length.
Yeah.
3 or 4 times its length. Sometimes 6 times its length. That's happened.
Do you remember when these were 15 minutes?
Yeah, but to be fair, and I've thought about that recently and been a bit like, we're terrible. But when I think about it, it actually kind of makes sense, because back in the day, imagine talking about cat fingers for fucking 50 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not possible. There just wasn't enough to grip onto yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, with the show has extended in its length as the content has become more complex and therefore more discussion worthy. That's how I am choosing to see it, because it makes me feel better about myself.
and for those wondering, I am angry and upset that he's brought that episode up, but I've derailed 2 of these in a row, so I'm not gonna do a Chris goes silent and shitty because he named the episode that must not be named.
But that's the perfect example though, because it's an episode that's like, it's kind of funny, but like you're not getting any.
It's not funny.
You're not getting but we're not getting any like. Well, we're gonna have to rewatch it at some point, Chris. So we'll see. If you appreciate it more in hindsight, I think
I won't.
I think it's interesting because like the show has kind of like evolved, but in such an organic way. Those episodes don't feel like they're that different to these ones. But they are. Because it's very slowly become something different. Intentionally. It's not like the show was badly designed at the beginning and they fixed it. The plan was always to get more complex and more interesting as it goes through.
And again, it's the difference between Philosopher's Stone and Deathly Hallows. You know what I mean? It's so much more than an adventure. But
Agreed.
Actually, those seeds were there from the beginning.
100%. Yeah, the DNA of the show we're watching now was never not in the show at the beginning, even if it has evolved a huge amount over that time.
Yeah. So did you know Wanted was coming quite quickly after this, or were people just losing their minds?
I think people were just losing their minds. For at least a week. I think for at least... I recall a period of time when I was just like... When we finished... In fact, I remember finishing that episode and being like, what a fucking cliffhanger. When is there more?
Presumably it was at least a week, because presumably they didn't... Because you watched them when the app released them, but they then didn't... They must not have done anything until at least after they aired on the television.
So at least a week, if not 2, maybe 3. But I know that then after that, obviously we had the Wanted arc, which from... So the way they did that was they were like a special Steven Universe event, Wanted, and it was an hour event, which means 4 episodes, aired on a single night. And this, if Nadia ever listens back to this podcast, she won't, because she got a fair few in and then sort of slowed down. Maybe one day she'll catch up on this podcast. If she does, I'm going to get myself in trouble here. But I was so excited for Wanted that I didn't wait to watch it with Nadia. In fact, I stayed up and watched it at 3 a.m. on an illegal stream from America. Because I just...
Well, like a stream, not even a download, a stream.
No, I watched it live when America did, because I was that excited to see this episode, these next episodes. I was that eager to see this Wanted event. And it was really funny because the guy doing the stream, whenever the adverts would go on, would start giving his thoughts.
That's brilliant.
So between the episodes, it was like, all right, guys, it's they're on commercials right now. So yeah, that was some really exciting developments. And it's just like, oh my god, what's happening? And then like it'd be like, oh, it's coming back on. And then he'd like just go quiet again, and it would be the show again.
Amazing.
It was so strange to watch it that way.
So did you pretend you hadn't done that?
Basically,
then, and rewatch it with her, and she still never knows.
Never known. And it's the only time I've done that. I've always been polite and held back and watched it with her because she's also a big fan of the show. So I've always been able to resist. But that time, my excitement was, this is peak Dan being excited about Steven Universe, which is interesting because following Wanted, we had that big gap, up to November. So I wonder if that. Go on.
Yeah. Well, no, I've got more questions about. So she falls asleep to you just dicking about on your laptop next to her, I assume.
Yes.
And then what? Just in the morning, are you just like, oh, I didn't sleep well. I don't know why. Like, whew.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that almost certainly would have been it. Like, it would have been that thing where I was like, oh, I'm really tired. Why? Oh, just didn't sleep well. It probably was that. I wouldn't have realized I was putting my foot in my mouth until afterwards. But I stayed up till an absurdly late time. Because in the UK time, it aired quite late, even in the States. Really, I can't remember exactly when, but like, it was late for Cartoon Network.
And in the build-up, in between the hours of 11 o'clock to 3 in the morning, you just you know what you're gonna do, so you've just you're keeping yourself awake.
It didn't start that way because I was in my head, I was like, no, I'll wait till tomorrow and I'll watch it. And then I just started like looking at the forums, like reading the the build-up and the excitement. And then I started seeing people saying about streams and like where were they going to watch it. And I was just like, I could. And then it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. I'm like, fuck, I've waited up just reading the forums and the excitement and the theorizing and all that stuff. And then it was just like, nope, I'm doing it. I'm doing it now. Wow. And the funny thing was, actually, if memory serves, they'd fucked up and they'd put the first episode of the Wanted arc out by accident. Already,
right, okay.
So we'd seen. Maybe they put it on the app by accident, or maybe they just done that. So me and Nadia had already seen the first of the 4. So really, it was it was the next 3 that I was looking for. So I couldn't even, when the stream started at like 2 or 3 in the morning, I had to wait till 15:15 really to get new content. I couldn't just.
Oh, poor you, Dan. Poor deceitful you.
I mean, yeah, if she hears this, she'll be angry. But I think I'm hoping she'll just never catch up, and she'll never know how weak I was.
Me and an ex did that with How I Met Your Mother, a story I've told before, I think, on the other podcast, where we were watching it together, but both of us had the files from yourself, I believe, and were just both of us, when we were apart, because we were in a long distance relationship at the time, were just both going ahead and then having to rewatch like 7-8 episodes at a time.
Yeah, because you were both pretending you hadn't done it and didn't realize.
Yeah, and both being really into the show, but like checking our phones freely and shit like that on like episodes because we'd both seen them.
That's hilarious. When did you figure that out? Like how often? Like how long until you figured
I
out?
think one of us broke and was like, "I've been moving ahead," and the other was like, "Oh, me too." Like, yeah.
Both pathetic.
Yeah, I love those. One of the happiest TV watching experiences. Watching those early episodes of How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, I'm glad I got you into that. That was one of those. Like, that was one of the first times like I was sharing like TV with you and like getting you into something. Like
yeah. I think so. Yeah, and then this is like a good like. I would be so interested to see how my behaviour changes when we're watching Steven Universe live, because when How I Met Your Mother ended, because that ended after The Office and stuff like that, I remember, I believe even, ended after Breaking Bad. And I remember saying on that podcast, How I Met Your finale, which is one of our most downloaded podcasts ever of Nothing But Static, because obviously the How I Met Your Mother finale divided people. And I remember saying that one of the reasons it hit so hard is because when you get older, when you're not at school, when you're not at uni, you don't have the ability to absorb TV shows in quite the same way, both in terms of like bulk watching or in terms of like reading stuff online about it. And I think when you're at school and when you're at uni, you are surrounded by like-minded people as well. So like I talk about TV with you, obviously, and there are some shows with a friend at work that I talk about, but we're at work, so it's not like we lose hours talking about them. It's not like, and everyone else is everyone's watching such separate things. So I think a show can't suck you in quite the same way. And How I Met Your Mother felt like, I've loved shows since, but How I Met Your Mother felt like the last show I was ever going to be emotionally attached to in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So I remember when it ended being like, I remember watching that finale going, this is the last time it's going to be like this. And I wonder whether when we're fully caught up, I'm going to feel that way. I'm going to start looking at forums. I'm going to start, seeking stuff out. I'm going to start reading theories. I wonder whether I'm going to have that emotional connection I'm talking about with this show.
I think it's possible, but it's also like it depends how quickly we catch up and how much of that is left, because we I think we're all aware that the show at some point has got to stop, and that end point can't be too far in our future. And by that I mean it certainly isn't running for another 5 years. It's probably got a couple of years left in it at most, and that's so it's like, I suppose it depends how entrenched in that world can you get in that time, if that makes sense.
Well, so you think the show will be over in 5 months?
No, I said within the next couple of years.
Oh, a couple of years. Sorry, I thought you said 5 months for some reason. Right, okay.
No, I said so. I said it's not going to last another 5 years. It's probably only got a year or two left.
Yeah, but I think that's enough time. It's enough time to see if it gets like that. I think it's interesting.
I think it's very possible though, because you certainly are very into it. So yeah, I wouldn't rule
definitely.
it out. I wouldn't rule it out.
Any triv or anything?
Sure, there is, Chris. The trivia mentions that everyone escaped except Lars. Thanks, I didn't notice. I mean, I suppose I'm kind of joking there, but in reality, I suppose they don't actually draw attention to that fact. So I suppose you could forgive someone for not putting that together.
You could miss that, but equally, I think if you miss that, then that's you watch the next episode and go, "Oh shit, Lars!" Like, I don't think that needs to be trivia.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, absolutely. Ruby and Sapphire's silhouettes can briefly be seen when Alexandrite diffuses. I still love that they do that, even though obviously the jig is up on that one. It's just a nice little thing. It's revealed that Connie has turned the song that she and Stephen danced to in Alone Together into her ringtone.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I really like that little bit of triv. That's one of my favourites.
I thought all the Stephen Connie stuff this week was great. Like her saying let's fuse, him just being so panicked, them working together, and obviously I love as well. We haven't talked about it, but obviously it was meant for everyone, not just Connie. But the beautiful the I love you moment.
Yeah, well, how do we miss that? Jesus, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
You see that happening, and it's one of those things where something happens, and in your head you go, "Oh, well, I hope he says he loves them," and he does it, and it's not cheesy, and it's emotional, and yeah, it was awesome.
Full credit to Zach Callison there, because I think on paper it's just the words "I love you." Read in different ways, it could come across cheesy. With the wrong music, it could come across cheesy. There's a million ways that could go wrong. But I think a lot of the heavy lifting is on the actor there to make that feel sincere.
Yeah, completely agree.
And I think he did. And he's always been great in the show. He's incredible. But like particularly that moment, like the "I love you" is so sincere sounding that it really sells it. And I know it recently sort of came out that he's been struggling himself with some sort of depression, anxiety issues, and things in that direction. Thoughts and prayers. That's the worst thing I could have said in that
definitely.
moment.
I don't know too much about that, and I don't think us talking about that will help him in any way.
No, but just to acknowledge that, like, he's an incredible talent, and whatever he's struggling with at the moment, he's certainly not listening, but my well wishes are with him.
Yeah, if something's going on, I hope he's. But just because of his age and stuff, I don't think it's fair for us to dwell on that. But if
no, agreed.
But having said that, if something's going on, then absolutely thoughts and wishes with him, and what a
actually how old is he at this
and
point?
talented guy he is.
Because he puts on that voice like I think he's like an adult now. Let me just check.
Still, so then to go back and have to put on the voice he was putting off.
Yeah, he's 20. Would you
huge
believe?
Talent. Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He released a single this year, actually, a song, and it's actually really good. I was
cool.
I was really annoyed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's called. I think it's called War, and I remember listening to it at the time. I never actually downloaded it properly, but I listened to it a couple of times on YouTube, and I remember thinking this is actually pretty good. Like,
cool.
I was expecting it to be some cheesy pop music, but it's pretty decent. So yeah, well wishes to him, and also 10 points to him for his work on this episode, particularly this episode. That last scene is brilliant, and I do also just love that, like, Steven's plan. By the way, that I thought the bubble thing was really clever. I haven't talked about that.
Yeah.
But the idea, I'll let them fuse me around, and then I'll bubble everyone out. Like, that's really clever. I don't know why it took him so long to bubble though. Like, he's not had trouble recently doing the bubble, has he?
Oh, yeah, but he's never had to do it in the middle of a fusion with panicked and Lars slapping him on the head, and I think that's fully explainable.
Lars was such a dick in that moment. Lars, stop hitting Steven on the head, man. Come on, let him do his thing. And actually, one of the moments I wanted to very briefly talk about was, like, the... not moments, so one other thing I want to talk about very briefly before I get back to the final bit of one or two bits of trivia is I thought it was the Topaz design was proven to be even cleverer this week. So Topaz has a gem on either side of her head fused. Unfused, it's on, each one has left and right.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the weapon was like a stick with like almost like a big, like, sort of gem rock at the end of it. But when they fused, it became like a Gladiators style sort of, you know, those like old. Do you remember the show Gladiators, Chris? You must.
Yeah, vaguely.
I think in America it's literally known as American Gladiator or something like that. But it's basically a show you used to have in the UK where they had these big, like, sort of like almost like big giant, like, cotton buds, earbuds that they would, like, battle each other with. Weird. It was like it's like one of those, but, like, put together. So the weapon, again, like the fusions we've seen from the crystal gems, the weapon is the individual weapons literally put together. And I thought that was a really cool bit of design. And I don't think I remember noticing that when I first watched it, but I definitely noticed it on this rewatch, and I remember making a sort of mental note to bring that up here. I think it's pretty cool. Let's see. Pearl gets launched into the sky. She disappears in a similar way to it is animated when Team Rocket disappear in Pokemon in the anime, which I noticed again this time, actually, rather than the first time. I guess I was just really wrapped up in the plot the first time because there's a few details.
What's happening and what's going to happen next.
Yeah, because I feel like I did miss a few details when I first watched this. But yeah, she does in the way that Team Rocket blasting off again, sort of thing. That's they've nicked that from not the animation specifically. That style of sort of getting knocked into the sky is very, very similar to that. Steven turning himself in and following Aquamarine and Topaz into the ship is a reference to Captain Picard being captured by the Borg on Star Trek Next Generation. It's an episode called The Best of Both Worlds, I think. They reckon it's also a reference to Han getting frozen in carbonite in Star Wars, especially the infamous quote, but using the "I am your father" line. I'm not so, that one's a bit vaguer. But,
yeah, I'm with you. I think that's reaching slightly.
Yeah, it is. The "I am your father" thing, I suppose, maybe a little, but not the Han Solo thing. That's a bit more of a stretch. No. Let's see. Yeah, it seems that the diamonds now know that the crystal gems are still active, but apparently have decided to leave them alone, presumably because they know full well that once the cluster emerges, they're dead anyway.
Yeah, they think that that's happening and the planet's going to be destroyed anyway.
Yeah, so they just sent in Aquamarine and Topaz just to collect a few samples before that happens. Obviously, flashbacks from the episode Marble Madness are seen. It's clear that Peridot made a full report after talking to Steven.
I love the way as well that they flash back to that immediately, so that you don't think for a second, or you don't dwell on thinking that maybe Peridot's a bad guy. I really liked that.
Yeah, I think
because they could have spun that into, did Peridot turn them in, and then instead it's, oh no, this is what happened. Okay.
Yeah, it was before Peridot, was sort of on their side, as it were. Yeah, absolutely. When Yellow Diamond learned of Blue Diamond's desire for more humans, in that will be all. She used this report specifically to specify the human variations that Aquamarine was to acquire. So we've already established that, but it's just noted in the continuity section of the trivia. Amethyst obviously references that the Ruby ship is now stolen from Room for Ruby. Yeah, we've done that one already. That one's in here twice about Connie's ringtone. That's weird. I mean, it's good, but it's not that good. Don't put it in twice. They reference, obviously, love letters when Jamie references that he's over his feelings for Thingy, for Garnet. Aquamarine references
that was
the
funny.
Rebellion.
That
was
good.
very good. This episode somewhat confirms... this episode somewhat confirms Steven's feelings for Connie, saying "I love you" both to Connie and the group before turning himself into Aquamarine and Topaz. I would agree with that, but I wouldn't put that in the trivia section.
I don't know if I'd agree with that, to be honest with you. What, is he also in love with Onion? I think he's just saying "I love you" to everyone.
Yeah, but what, like, you pointed out there that you thought him saying "I love you," he was like maybe thinking of Connie when he said it.
I was thinking of Connie and everyone. Like, I don't think it. Maybe then, yeah. But I just think because
I could have swore that's what you said like 5 minutes ago.
But I think the "I love you" bit reminded me of all the Stephen and Connie stuff, and I love the idea that he does look at her. But I don't think it's further confirmation than what we've already had. And I don't think I viewed it as him saying it to the whole group, but I just like the fact that she's included in that group that he's saying it to. Right,
I see. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's everything. The last bit of that trivia I should have just skipped because none of it was that interesting. Anyway, just lots of references we've already discussed. But yeah, that's your lot.
I look forward to. I'm very excited for Wanted.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll as we've pre-established, I think we're just going to do it normal. I know it was a bit of a
yeah. You get Wanted part 1 on next Tuesday, and then part 2 on next Thursday.
Yeah, I just think it's Monday and Thursday for us, and it's Tuesday and Friday in the States. No, it's Tuesday and Friday for us, but it's Monday and Thursday in the States because of the time difference. Right. But yeah, that's everything, I guess. Unless you anything you want to add, Chris?
No. Just I loved that, and I'm very excited.
Yeah. Oh, now we've seen it all on the scale of bombs. Where does it land for you?
Yeah, right up there, definitely, especially for that last episode and last 2 episodes. I think it's I think the last one was my favourite, but I'd put that right up there with the Garnet and Pearl stuff.
Yeah, the Sardonyx one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Sardonyx one. Yeah,
not so much Stephen's birthday week, but
no, that was I had some issues with that one, and the one that was just separate people, as well.
Yeah, the
bomb that had Ronaldo in, nah.
Any bomb that has Ronaldo in is immediately failing.
Poor Ronaldo.
No, we've established what's going on with Ronaldo now. That we figured it out in the last in Ronaldo. He's getting bad stories. It's not his fault.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that's everything
cool.
for this week. Then I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham,
and we'll speak to you next time when we discuss the first episode of Wanted, Stuck Together.